Decoding Future Leadership is an audiovisual podcast breaking open the capabilities, technologies, growth strategies, and mental fitness required to lead our future working world. A collaboration between PeopleStrong, the customer's choice for HR tech across Asia Pacific, and Future Leadership, each episode addresses the challenges of a hybrid workforce with a blend of human capability and HR technology solutions. Let's get into this week's episode.
I'm delighted to be joined today by Vipul Mathur, who's going to join us in a moment. But before I do that, I thought I'd just quickly introduce the podcast for today. We're talking about leading in a high growth environment, which, as I'm sure Vipul will tell us, calls for courage, fortitude, and a values-driven decision-making approach. And really what we're going to explore today is how values-driven leaders leverage technology to align their workforce for cohesion and for growth, particularly during uncertain and challenging situations and times, which I'm sure we'd all agree is what we are in now. A quick introduction to our guest speaker, Vipul Mathur, who is joining us today from India. He leads the performance and productivity practice at PeopleStrong, Asia's leading work and HR technology provider. He's an experienced entrepreneur and a business leader with a career spanning over 2 decades of building, managing and leading teams. Vipul has done a considerable amount of work on business management for high growth companies, having founded startup businesses within technology before joining the PeopleStrong business. He's worked a lot with objective and key reporting statistics and how to best implement OKR strategies and create business outcomes. So we're really fortunate to be joined by him today. Vipul, welcome. And how are things going at the moment? I know it's early in the morning for you, but thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you with us.
No, thanks a lot, Adam. Thanks for this invitation, and I look forward for some amazing conversation together.
Fantastic. All right. Well, look, one of the things that I was really keen to talk about first of all was just a very opening statement, Vipul. How do you see things at the moment in terms of the environment, technology, and what are some of the key challenges that you're working with at the moment?
What I've seen, Adam, in fact, couple of years in my interactions with CEOs across Asia, is that a consistent couple of keywords which are coming in every conversation, is that how do I build agility now in teams? How do I drive accountability? How do I scale up the business where we are? How do we build capability and drive engagement? I think these are the areas where I'm hearing a lot of conversation around across leaders in Asia, at least.
Yes.
And I think one of the solutions which I've been providing to these firms is of a very interesting framework called OKR. You did mention about objectives and key results, and that's something which leaders are exploring and using to drive alignment in teams. So that's something which I'm seeing, Adam, at scale across various enterprises.
Fantastic. And more to your point, Vipul, we're seeing values-based leadership is being the key to attracting and retaining talent, and also engaging workforces across organisations, globally, to instill that sense of real belonging, which is in this competitive landscape even more important to retain talent. You've worked with many high growth leaders, and you've supported them, as you said, with the objectives and key results frameworks. Can you just share with us where you've seen those models for growth really work and leverage results?
Sure. So, Adam, and I'll go into very basic, fundamentals. I follow a very interesting concept where I call it a CSC, framework. And if you look at for every firm who's designed for growth, there are 3 critical levers. One is culture, second is strategy, and third is capability.
Mm.
Right? These three levers have to, uh, work in harmony for growth. Right? Now let's double click this. So when we talk about culture, it starts at the top, right? It's imperative now for leaders to call out the purpose why they exist.
Mm.
What's the impact we are bringing, to our customers, to a larger environment? What is our ambition, where we want to go? Very clearly articulate, and build that in form of the strategy. Right? How do you translate that into your strategy? Ensure that you have your operating plans which are linked to your purpose. Ensure you have the strategy execution governance which is there. Ensure you have a very articulate value proposition, right? And the third component is the capability, right?
Mm.
Do you have the know-how to execute your strategy? Right? Does your team has the capability or the right skills to take you for growth? Right?
Yes.
So if you see the culture, strategy, and capability, the framework which I have personally, witnessed and deployed, like I said, Adam, OKR, has been able to align this and at scale, right, for enterprises.
Mm.
So as a team member, or if I'm hiring a talent for my firm, or if I'm giving direction to my existing employees for growth, what OKR as a framework does, it gives the clarity for each and every team member, where we're headed to, how am I contributing. So it just does not allow to align my business outcome, it also aligns the purpose.
Mm.
And most importantly, it brings the entire behavior amongst teams, that my contribution is just not for a business outcome, but is aligned to a larger cause.
Great.
And that's the fundamental simplicity and the beauty, I would say, of a framework like an OKR. And as an employee, I see that, hey, listen, to go from point A to point B, if I need to contribute, I'm lacking in those skills,
Mm.
right? And I need to build that across as well. So OKR basically orchestrates all this thing together. It aligns people not just from a business outcome, but from a culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the values which will take us to drive that is what forms the entire engagement piece to it. And that has been a success mantra for a lot of firms, Adam, which I've witnessed.
Fantastic. You mentioned capability, Vipul, then,
Yeah.
and right at the end you said that people who go through the OKR using that culture, strategy, and capability framework as well, they begin to identify their own capabilities or where they need development. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what happens then when they identify perhaps they don't have the capabilities? How does that play out?
Yeah. So, very important element, you would have also witnessed, Adam, would be that what skills I possess perhaps might not be relevant for the future.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen in at least last 2 years, a new approach of doing business. Right? When, let's say, for example, sales as a function which we all understand pretty well. Uh, Today we don't have the opportunity to interact with the customer, and there are emotions when when you are engaging with customers. So how have you translated yourself from doing a physical sales environment to a digital sales environment?
Yeah.
Right? If as a sales leader you don't know the hacks of digital sales, then there is a challenge. So what do? You need to build capability.
Mm.
And if you're not building capability, you'll not succeed in your role. And what this gap gives an understanding to an employee is that if I need to succeed in this, my role, I need to build those capabilities. How I build those capabilities is through the learning environment, which we kind of introduce to the employees, that these are the gaps which you have. You need to build that across in case you need to succeed, not only in your current role, but also in the roles for the future. So it's very important. And I think today we're witnessing across enterprises the entire need for the reskilling of team members across functions, because there are
Absolutely.
those 3-4 more additional skills you would need for sure to succeed in not only just to be successful in your current business environment, but in future as well.
Yes. That's fascinating because
Yeah.
I recently read an article from CEOs and a survey of CEOs, and I think the top two areas that they
Yeah.
pinpointed for challenge over the next couple of years is that continual digitization of their capability or of their platform. To your very point, it seems like that's a very, very key issue that you've talked about, Dan. Is that what you've seen in the recent years of identifying that capability?
Yes, absolutely, Adam. And in fact, if you see today, what took us here will for sure not take us in the future, right? The customer behaviors are changing. So you need
Mm,
to innovate relentlessly, right? Now, to
yes.
innovate, you need those additional skills. If that capability is not there in your firms, you would be lagging behind, right? And needless to say, you whether it's a market share or your customers retention. So all those business challenges are sitting in front of us.
Mm,
So if we will not, upscale our teams, reskills our teams, it will be a very very difficult environment to sustain yourself in business. So
absolutely.
my headline for from capability standpoint is now not only just identify for yourself to sustain yourself, but for your future growth, because
Yes.
somebody out there in the market is doing that.
He's going to do it. He's going to do
Absolutely,
it quickly as well. Um,
absolutely.
Brilliant. At PeopleStrong, I know you've been bridging that gap between the way you know high growth companies are leveraging technology. Can you talk us through your vision and some of the challenges that you've had and how you've overcome them within PeopleStrong?
So I mean, at PeopleStrong, we're very clear. Two areas we invest very heavily. One is innovation, and other is customer success.
Hmm.
As a service provider in technology, it's kind of our responsibility to ensure that our customers are ahead of the curve. Right, what we are talking right now, we need to practice this. In fact, a year back, we launched our comprehensive talent management solution called Talent OS, Talent Operating System. That's what we are calling it. And we're calling it as an operating system because talent today is the core differentiator, between you and your competitor, the quality of talent. Like we said that, if it's speed to market, speed to create, innovate, or speed to service your customer, the differentiation between you and your competitor is your talent. Now, what we have done is that we looked at the market, right, and we saw that organizations are struggling in managing their talent, right, and the reason why they're struggling is, um, a there is no single comprehensive view. There are multiple systems running within each enterprises, right. B is that uh, the entire processes which organizations are running are in silos, right.
Mm,
So our talent operating system basically combines all together all the talent programs and gives an outcome of data to the firm. Now, to give you an example, um, the entire operating system is built on a proprietary skill cloud, and we spoke about Adam capability.
yes.
Organizations are struggling that for this particular role, what is the capability set I should be having? What are the
Mm,
skills? Right? I don't know. Right now, our AI, which we have built across and being there in the business for long, what we have done is that we provide that insight to enterprises that for these roles, these are the skills which are likelihood that this person should own. So you're hiring the right talent then,
yeah.
right? And once the talent is on board, are the skills, what are the additional skills which you require for the individual to grow, right? And this is where the capability building starts happen. So through technology, we are able to create contextual learning paths for people.
Hmm.
So if as a sales leader I gave an example, I need to do a digital sales course, a course on how do I drive digital skills, which is not there with me, right? Uh, I've identified that gap. I'll provide the entire learning journey and the capability attached to it. Also, what we've done is a lot of time skills are there within the firm, right? Perhaps the enterprises don't even know them because of the
Mm,
scale, right? So how do I see that who are the team members within the firm who possess these skills? And I need to, let's say, for example, I need to start new business operation, right? And then I need to have a team to set up. What do? I don't even have a view of people capability within the firm. So What we have created for the leaders is a quick view where you can see who all are the people within the firm having these skills, and you can immediately bring them on the table and initiate the project, right? So this is a very comprehensive way we've been able to create an operating system of sorts for the firm, where from hiring, right, to building capability, to showcasing career progression, to succession, all these are connected through our proprietary skill cloud. So a unifying element in the entire product is the capability. So one side you see how capability is being built within the firm. The other side you see is how the strategy is executing within the firm. So as a leader, if you double click why the pace of strategy is not happening, is perhaps the strategy is right. Perhaps people don't have the know how to execute the strategy. So that
Yes.
balancing act is what talent operating system is bringing to the table. And this is something has been a challenge statement, especially for a lot of CEOs. They've not been able to articulate it properly. But once you have the data in front of you, you can immediately pinpoint that this is an area. These are my red zones. I need to build capability so that we do not lose. And there is a huge opportunity cost while running the business. Adam, we all know.
This podcast is created by Fisher Leadership and proudly sponsored by PeopleStrong. Here's a message from PeopleStrong CEO Sandeep Chowdhury.
We indeed are living in the era of talent economy. The talent economy fundamentally for us means looking at the world of work, workplace, and workforce very differently than what we've essentially experienced and known in the pre-pandemic world. We fundamentally believe that experience, collaboration, and data will actually differentiate the best from the rest. With that ambition, PeopleStrong has brought the first talent operating system to enterprises to essentially be able to personalize the employee journey right from the hiring into the learning, performance, and the career management stage of every employee. We've done that with massive amount of AI and ML that will bring in the right decisions for an employee and for the enterprises to essentially take the biggest advantage of the crisis that we're just coming out of.
Fantastic. And talk to us, Vipul, just a little bit about how does that capability be captured? How do you get that richness of data in about an individual's capability to then be able to see that?
Sure. So, Adam, it's a continuous process, and this is where technology comes into play. And PeopleStrong has been in business for over 15 years, right? And over the years, we've been working towards it. It's not like it's just come out like yesterday. We've been creating our own repository. And we have huge, rich data across geographies in terms of various industries which are running across. In those industries, what are the roles? And in those roles, what are the prevalent skills available? Right.
Understand.
So we have a huge repository, and that intelligence is what we pass on to our customers.
Fantastic.
And a lot of time, like I said, that this is a continuous process.
Yes.
The skills which were relevant for a particular role 4 years back, perhaps they might not be. They might be very hygiene, but you might require 3-4 additional skills, which will definitely need to win in the market.
Brilliant. And are those skills you mentioned that evolve, that's coming through a combination of the market data that you have, but also your artificial intelligence capabilities as well. Is that right?
Absolutely, Adam. Absolutely.
Yeah. Brilliant. So that's a good segue into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, and that was, we think of values driven leadership as something that's really human.
Yeah.
Yet we know, obviously, in today's hybrid world, that we need those human skills to interconnect with data, with analytics, with artificial intelligence, with technology and with systems. So how do we continue to have a values-driven approach with that data-driven approach as well? How do we best combine the two?
Sure. I love the smile, Adam, you had while asking this question. So yes, I'm a proponent that technology is an enabler, right? A human value system have to be driven by humans, right? Technology is just an enabler. So let me answer this question into two halves. A very interesting question. So technology has I that's my perspective. That technology has two primary use. One is to provide direction, right? So that you can have better decision making, and we can reduce the opportunity loss. So if I know likelihood of something happening, I should be informed and I'll take a decision onto it. So that's element one of technology. Element two of technology is to drive engagement and build conversations. Right, that's a very critical component, and that's where the entire human connect comes in. For example, when I spoke of talent operating system, we have a very interesting engagement layer, Adam, and we have a chatbot called Genie, and it's taking an avatar of a talent coach. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
imagine as an employee, and I'll just give you my user journey. What Genie does, and specifically in these times where I'm working from home, Genie comes and talks to me that how am I feeling, right? It checks on not only my physical well-being but my mental well-being. And if it
Hmm.
gets a point where it says that I'm not feeling great, it probes me and checks that are these symptoms or are these areas which I can support you with. What Genie also does is talks to me in terms of my capability building.
Hmm.
So right, and it also shows me what are the outcomes from business which I need to be ready with, right? So Genie is playing that engagement role for managers, right? What Genie does is that it picks up the intelligence and shares with the managers that this is how your teams are doing, this is how your teams are engaged, and this is how your teams are performing. Would you like to have a conversation? So
Mm.
what Genie is trying to do is build relationship. It's pushing the manager. Hey, listen, why don't you set up a meeting, right? And here are the tips of of having a better conversation during that meeting, right? For CEOs, it's sharing that these are your red zones in the firm, right? This is how your
Yes.
attrition looks. This is how your productivity is looking. Why don't you connect with these teams? So through technology, like I said, that is just not about data and interpreting the data. What we are doing from an innovation standpoint, we're trying to leverage technology to build those human connects, to build those conversations, to build that context in those conversations, right? So this is where technology and the entire human value system, we're trying to build a balancing act, Adam.
Mm. That's quite amazing, Vipul. That how long has that been in development for the Genie technology, and are you seeing what are you seeing that it's picking up and learning and improving over the time that it started?
So we've been, in the innovation labs over the years doing that. Initially, we looked at Genie as more as an service assistant, solving queries. But what we realized was that beyond queries is just data reporting, right? This is, there's an input, there is an output. Over the last 3 years, what we have invested very heavily is to build contextualization and build intelligence in Genie,
Hmm.
so that Genie, when it connects with you, Adam, it talks to the language which you understand, right?
Yes.
It is very contextual to your needs. When it talks to me, it is with a context with my challenges, right? Whether it's capability, whether it's well-being, whether it's the productivity, or could be anything, right? So,
Mm.
so Genie has been evolving. Like I said, that technology cannot be static, right? It needs
Yeah.
to evolve every day. And like I said, that our vision for Genie is to be a talent coach. So imagine in enterprises, you leveraging technology, you are giving this coach to every employee
Mm.
who's not only aligning people on your larger purpose, but also engaging with the end user, telling them what they should be doing to succeed and in their work. Not only succeed in their work, but also be a better person altogether. So that's
Yes.
the vision Genie is taking.
Fantastic, and I'd love the fact that it's addressing not just capability and
Yeah.
performance, but also mental
And
well-being,
yes.
picking up clues,
Yeah.
trying to create that ecosystem that allows managers and CEOs,
Yeah.
as you said, to really be on top of their
Yeah.
teams and their people.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Um, it was only a matter of time before we got to the COVID-19 question, but it's there. It's not going away. Things are changing, but things are going to be changed forever, I think. And as that's accelerated, the shifts that organisations have had to do to execute, to strategize, to manage and reward performance is really it's real, and it's happening all the time. With that added, I guess, challenge of making remote and hybrid workforces more efficient and continuing to perform for the customer. What do you think are the key things that organisations need to keep in mind as we almost now embrace this new normal of hybrid working? How do we keep performance high for our customers while looking after our teams?
Sure, absolutely. I say that the first thing and the foremost thing, which is the most essential component, whether it's COVID or not COVID, is communication, and communication from leadership. Right? Leaders have to walk the talk. That's the first and the foremost element. We need to give clarity, right? Whether clarity in terms of strategy, if there has been a course correction, clarity in terms of direction, right? And clarity on the overall environment. So the first and the foremost thing is communication, right? That's has to be, and the more leaders do, the better it is, right? And that's what has been an ask, and we've been supporting through technology. How do we connect CEOs, one-on-one with the entire firm, and we'll talk about that later, perhaps. So communication is the first and the most important element which every firm needs to invest heavily, and leaders. That's a goal which every CEO should be owning it, come what may, right? The
Yes.
second component is about focusing on outcomes, right? So outcomes are very important in today's business environment. So focus on outcomes, and important is to develop managers who coach the efforts which you will take to drive those outcomes, right? A lot of time, while through this hybrid environment, people are trying to micromanage things, which is not a great thing to do. Focus on outcomes, whether it takes 4 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. If you've given an accountability to a team member to execute something, that's it. It finishes there, right? To coach how to go there is the role of a manager. So ensuring that you have enough conversation between managers and team members happening in terms of the efforts. So focus on outcomes. So that's the second point I would say. Third, a very interesting, important piece is collaboration, needless to say. And today, what I have seen, Adam, across over the years, a shift from a very hierarchical structure to a network of teams, right? And you need to align people on common goals. So, Adam, you perhaps are part of strategy. I might be part of business. There's somebody from technology, but we need to align ourselves together as a squad.
Operations.
Absolutely. We need to align ourselves because this is one objective we are chasing. So ensure that you create those squads. Very important. Collaboration. So collaboration doesn't become a fuzzy word, right? That you get a team together inside a room and you just brainstorm and drive an outcome. Collaboration is building a squad with a common purpose. So drive that collaboration led execution approach much more than siloed based and individual based approach. So that's the third hack I would say I would advise. Fourth is invest in well-being. It's super critical, right? At the end of the day, we all are sitting in our rooms, working, and you don't know what state of affairs people are there. So I think it's super critical to bring this agenda forward and ensure that as a firm, we are investing very heavily in physical and mental well-being for people. And this is a track which has certainly become much more of importance and relevance in today's environment.
Absolutely.
The next tip I would give is focus on skills, right? Like I said, the entire genesis of talent operating system is you need to upgrade your OS, right? To get the better experience and deliver a better and faster outcomes. So invest in skilling, right? It's super critical. You need to future proof yourself. Where you want to go, ensure that you have the know-how. So skilling is a very important component. And the last and but the least, you need an execution layer. So leverage technology, right, to bring all of this to a purpose. So starting from communication to focusing on outcomes to investing on well-being and investing on skilling. I think all these are interconnected to build a very nice recipe for growth, right? And it links back
Yes.
in onto what we spoke, Adam, initially around the culture, strategy, and capability. So I think these
Yeah.
would be the few things which I would advise. Adam.
Fantastic. And you mentioned looking at all of those different things. Where would you say an organization or a leader should perhaps start if they're kind of beginning that technology journey? What are some of the perhaps early wins to focus on when you're looking at a technology coming into an organization to help enable you?
So three things which as a starting point for every business leader. The first and the foremost point is you would have an operating plan in place. I'm very sure every firm
Yep.
would have that, and you would have a strategy document in place for growth, and you would have, I'm assuming, build the structures to execute that strategy. The first and foremost thing is to ensure that from a business standpoint we align our entire workforce on what we are chasing.
Yes.
So a performance management play is a very critical component, right? Because there is a direct impact to business, right? So I think
Yep.
the first step is to establish that firmly, because your plans are firm. Because you have to answer to your shareholders, you have to answer back to your investors. So you
Mm.
ensure that your strategy execution is in place, right? While your strategies would be in place, the execution grid should be in place. While you're taking this journey, identify the gaps. Is strategy a
Yes.
gap or capability a gap? Right? If you're starting from scratch, right? If you notice that there is a capability in the gap, double click this and ensure that you have the right set of people and invest in building capability. That's the second
Yeah.
element which can, and slowly you build that entire cohesive ecosystem where not only your capability, your strategy, and your engagement, all of them are connected, in a very harmonious way. So this is what my
Yeah.
approach advice, Adam, would be.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vipul. And I know a lot of people will take a lot from that. We're coming to the end of the session today, but one thing I'd love to understand is, how do you see technology enabling a more human future of work?
I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, uh, but looking at from trends, Adam, Web 3.0 is what we say is a reality, right? And Web 3.0 is around blockchain and driving,
Yeah.
incentivizing users to perform an action, right? So that's something which I think is the next place where the entire technology, not just work tech, but it's gonna go. Um, I We've been operating in a virtual world for quite some time, while statically, but I think uh, the future would be virtual offices. That's something which should be on the anvil, where perhaps you and I have a avatar of ours having a cup of coffee together in the near future. But what I've seen is that the trends in technology, the first impact it comes is when consumer behavior. So it normally starts from consumer. The habit formation starts from when you consume certain products, and the work tech follows the same principles, right? So the first
Hmm.
behavior change you see in the consumer tech space, right? And those are the behaviors you then replicate back into work tech space. So when the advent of apps started happening in consumer tech space, it became imperative for business tech to have apps on the mobile. The importance of in consumer space, the mobile experience which was powering the same thing happened in work tech. So I see that the trends to catch up would be whatever the investments and the innovation is happening in the consumer tech will definitely get replicated into work tech. Having said that, I think one thing for sure is my headline would be, for the future,
Hmm.
do you have the right skills to run the business? And I think that is something which would remain through and through.
Vipul, thank you for your time today and your fantastic insights about culture, high performance, technology, and how it enables people to be at the best in organizations. We wish you all the best for this year. Once again, many thanks.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
That's it for today's episode of Decoding Future Leadership. Thanks for listening. We'd really love to hear how your workplace is combining human capability and HR technology to redesign our hybrid working environments. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to help us create a world of difference. Brought to you by PeopleStrong and Future Leadership.